Ever get that feeling in a job interview where you just know the interviewer is using some kind of Jedi mind trick to figure you out? Like, there's
Yeah.
this whole other layer of the conversation happening that you're kind of missing.
It's not quite a Jedi mind trick,
Okay.
but you're spot on about that hidden layer.
Yeah.
Interviews have a structure, a
Right.
sort of behind-the-scenes playbook that most people aren't even aware of.
Okay. That's both fascinating. A and D, a little intimidating.
Sure.
So how do we crack the code and use it to our advantage?
That's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going beyond the generic interview advice
Hi.
and uncovering the secrets to acing those conversations.
Okay.
Think of it this way.
Yeah.
It's not just about having the right answers.
Mm.
It's about understanding the why behind the questions and what your responses really tell the interviewer about you.
So it's like a strategy game
Yeah.
where we need to understand the rules, not just memorize the moves.
Exactly. And once you see the patterns, you can actually use them to showcase your best self.
Okay.
For example,
Mm-hmm.
did you know that interviewers use different types of questions to evaluate you from different angles?
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Okay.
Tell me more about these different question types.
Well, you have your classic behavioral questions like, tell me about a time you failed.
Right.
They might sound intimidating, but they're really designed to see how you handle challenges and learn from your mistakes.
Right.
It's about assessing your past behavior to get a sense of how you might perform in the future. Then there are technical questions, which are more about gauging your specific skills and know-how in a particular area.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So behavioral questions are like looking back to understand how you'll approach things moving forward. And technical questions are about proving you have the chops for the actual work.
You've got it. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Interviewers also use psychology, often subconsciously, to go beyond the surface level of your answers.
Wait, like they're reading our minds.
Uh,
Now I'm really nervous.
Not quite mind reading,
Okay.
but they might pick up on things like your body language,
Right.
tone of voice, even those subtle micro expressions that can reveal your true feelings.
Wow.
They're looking for consistency between your words and your demeanor.
It's like they're piecing together a puzzle, trying to see if you're the missing piece that fits their company culture.
You're catching on quickly. Cultural fit is a bit of a buzzword, but it really just boils down to whether your values,
Right.
communication style, and work ethic would gel with their existing team.
Okay.
Some companies even use AI and psychometric tests to try to measure this,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll get into that a bit later.
Okay, so we've got these different question types and this whole cultural fit thing happening in the background.
Yeah,
But let's be real.
sure.
There are some questions that are practically guaranteed to come up in any interview, right? Like that dreaded, tell me about yourself opener.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some questions are interview classics for a reason.
Right.
But even with those familiar questions, there are ways to answer them that will make you stand out from the crowd.
Now that's what I want to hear. So let's break down a few of these greatest hits and how to really knock them out of the park.
Okay.
Starting with, tell me about yourself. How do we go beyond just reciting our resume?
Think of it like storytelling. Instead of just listing your experiences,
Okay.
weave them into a narrative that connects your skills and passions to the company's values
Yeah.
and the specific role you're interviewing for.
So less about I'm a hard worker
Right.
and more about my passion for insert company's mission that aligns perfectly with this role because,
It shows that you've done your research,
yeah,
you understand what they're all about,
yeah.
and you've thought about how you specifically can contribute to their success.
Now that's how you make a memorable first impression. Okay, I'm loving this storytelling approach. It feels so much more genuine than just rattling off a list of accomplishments. Yeah. Let's be honest. Even with the best prep interviews can feel overwhelming. Sure. How can we make sure our answers really land, especially when the pressure is on?
I'm so glad you asked that.
Okay.
Because it brings us to another critical aspect of successful interviewing, understanding how our brains process information.
Right.
You see, we can only juggle so many details at once before things start to slip.
Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
I've definitely had those moments where my brain just feels full and
Yeah.
I end up rambling or going off on a tangent.
It happens to the best of us.
Right.
And that's exactly why keeping your answers concise and impactful is so important.
Okay.
Think of it like this. Instead of overwhelming the interviewer with a wall of information,
Mm-hmm.
deliver your points like well-aimed darts, clear, direct, and to the point.
So less is more when it comes to crafting those killer responses.
Absolutely. A structured approach can work wonders.
Okay.
Imagine your answer as a mini presentation with a beginning, middle, and end.
Okay.
It helps the interviewer follow your train of thought and remember the key takeaways.
It's like that old saying, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough.
Yeah,
We want our answers to be clear, concise, and easy to digest.
precisely. Now, here's another tip you might find surprising. Pay attention to your body language.
Okay.
Subtly mirroring the interviewer's posture gestures or even tone of voice can actually help you build a stronger connection.
I've heard of this mirroring technique before,
Mhm.
but it always felt a little manipulative, like I'm trying to copy them or something.
It's not about becoming their mirror image,
Right.
but rather finding a natural way to sync your energy and create a sense of camaraderie.
Okay.
Studies show that we tend to feel more comfortable and trusting with people who seem similar to us,
Mm-hmm.
even on a subconscious level.
So it's more about finding a natural rhythm together,
Yeah,
not turning into their interview clone.
exactly.
So,
It's about building rapport and showing that you're on the same wavelength.
right.
And speaking of finding the right rhythm, let's talk about the power of the pause.
Oh, the pause.
Yeah,
That's a tough one for me. I always feel like silence equals, I don't know what to say.
I hear you.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite the opposite. A well-placed pause can make you appear more thoughtful, composed, and in control.
Right.
It gives you a moment to collect your thoughts,
Yeah.
which can be especially helpful if you're feeling flustered or put on the spot.
Yeah.
Plus, it allows the interviewer a chance to process what you've just said and potentially ask follow-up questions,
Right.
creating more natural back and forth.
So instead of fearing the silence, we should embrace it as an opportunity to regroup and deliver a more impactful response.
Yeah,
It's about projecting that quiet confidence.
exactly. Remember, an interview isn't just about what you say, but how you say it.
Right.
Your body language, tone of voice, and even the way you handle those moments of silence all contribute to the impression you're making.
Okay.
Now, while we're talking about communication styles,
Yeah.
we can't ignore the elephant in the Zoom room video interviews.
Right.
They're practically unavoidable these days.
Oh, the joys of video interview. They
Yeah.
have their perks, sure, but they also come with their own set of challenges.
Sure.
It's like, how do I present my best self through a screen?
That's a question a lot of people are grappling with these days. On the one hand,
Right.
you have more control over your environment, no need to worry about traffic jams or finding the right conference room.
Right.
But on the other hand, you have to think about lighting camera angles and making sure your cat doesn't make a surprise guest appearance.
Right.
Yes.
It's like trying to create a professional studio in your living room.
Yeah,
Any tips for those of us who aren't exactly tech wizards?
absolutely. Lighting is key.
Okay.
Natural light is always best if you can swing it.
Right.
Try facing a window if possible.
Okay.
If not, a well-positioned lamp can also do the trick.
Okay.
And for camera angles, you want the camera to be at eye level or slightly above.
Right.
So you're not looking down at the interviewer,
Yeah.
which can feel a bit awkward.
It's like we're all amateur filmmakers these days learning how to direct our own personal interview scenes.
Exactly. And just like in the movies, sound quality matters.
Right.
Find a quiet space where you won't be interrupted.
Right.
And if you're serious about acing those video interviews,
Yeah.
it might be worth investing in a decent microphone.
Those are some great practical tips, but what about nonverbal communication in the virtual world?
Sure.
Does that change at all?
It absolutely does. In a way, nonverbal cues are even more important in video interviews because you don't have those subtle in-person interactions to rely on.
Right.
Maintaining good posture, making eye contact with the camera, which simulates eye contact with the interviewer, and being mindful of your facial expressions all contribute to a positive impression.
Mm.
You want to project that you're engaged, enthusiastic, and attentive even through the screen.
So it's like those Zoom meeting etiquette rules we've all learned over the past few years, but with even higher stakes.
Precisely. Now, speaking of stakes, let's talk about some real-life interview scenarios that illustrate these points.
Okay.
Sometimes hearing how it plays out in the real world is the best way to understand what works and what doesn't.
I love a good story.
Okay.
Do you have any particularly memorable interview wins or fails that come to mind?
One that always sticks with me involved a candidate applying for a marketing role
Okay.
at a very creative, out-of-the-box company.
Right.
During the interview, instead of just talking about their past campaigns, they actually pulled out props and did a live impromptu presentation of a new product idea.
Wow. That's thinking on your feet.
Right.
Yeah.
And it worked. It did.
Oh.
The interviewers were blown away by their energy, their creativity, and their willingness to go the extra mile.
Yeah.
It was a perfect match for the company culture.
Yeah.
And they ended up getting a job offer on the spot.
See, that's how you stand out from the crowd. Okay, now I need a good, cringe-worthy fail to balance it out.
Oh, I've got one.
Okay.
A candidate showed up for a virtual interview.
Yeah.
Let's just say not quite dressed for the occasion.
Okay.
We're talking pajama bottoms and a messy background,
Hmm.
complete with a half-eaten bowl of cereal on the table.
No way. Didn't they realize there was a camera involved?
Apparently not, or they thought they could get away with it.
Oh.
Needless to say, it didn't make a great impression.
Yeah. Right.
It showed a lack of professionalism and attention to detail.
Right.
Two qualities that are essential in any job.
Ouch. I guess it just goes to show that even in the digital world, first impressions still matter.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These stories might seem extreme, but they highlight the importance of being prepared, being authentically yourself, and reading the room or the Zoom room, as the case may be.
So for our listeners who are gearing up for their next big interview,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway you want them to walk away with today?
It's this. Remember that interviews are a two-way street.
Okay.
Yes, the interviewer is evaluating you,
Right.
but it's also a chance for you to assess whether the company and the role are the right fit for you.
That's such a crucial point. It's easy to get so caught up in trying to impress the interviewer that we forget to ask ourselves if we can actually see ourselves thriving in that environment.
Exactly. So as you prepare for your next interview,
Okay.
I want you to consider this. What if the most important question isn't when they ask you,
Right.
but one that you ask them?
That's a brilliant thought to leave us with.
Thanks.
It's about taking control of the conversation, being genuinely curious, and finding the right fit on both sides of the table. So to all our listeners out there navigating the interview jungle, be confident, be prepared, be yourselves, and don't forget to ask the questions that matter most to you. Until next time on the Deep Dive Happy Interviewing.